Hello everyone, this is the Trimble Geospatial webinar on GPS week number rollover on April 6, 2019. This is Stefan Lutz speaking. I'm the GNSS market manager for Trimble Geospatial and Spectra GNSS receivers. I'm here with my colleagues Ken Dinkel from our infrastructure group and Gareth Gibson and Boris, and they will speak to their product sections in a bit. A quick agenda: what is the week number rollover? When will this happen? What's our approach as Trimble? What are the consequences of the rollover? What actions are needed? What steps should you and your customers take? Additional information, and how do we communicate that topic inside and outside of Trimble? So the week number rollover, and when would this happen? This is kind of the basic question here. GPS provides a date and a time information with a week number. In the year 1980, when GPS started, this week was kind of week 0, and the week number is a 10-digit binary number, and it rolls over after the number 1023 is reached, goes back to 0. This happened already for the first time in August 21, 1999, and this year in April 6, we have the second event of the same category where the week rolls over again. This means receivers that do not account for this rollover will report a wrong date information. And a receiver with a non-compliant firmware will see errors. And to guard against that, users are encouraged to install a compliant receiver firmware. The Trimble's approach to that is we are, in general, with our engineering and product management teams, proactive in monitoring those kind of events. They don't happen very often, as mentioned, every 19.7 years. These are very rare and known events, and we are factoring in those consequences from a development perspective early in products that use GPS. We have test plans in place for hardware and software ready to all those receivers. We have GNSS multi-constellation simulators that we test our products with continuously, but especially also for events like the week number rollover to see how those events are handled. And we also look into different scenarios: what happens to real-time applications, what happens to static surveys, what happens to the various input and output messages the receivers generate, and also the files that are being logged into the receiver and how those files are processed. What's the consequence of the rollover? So most of the Trimble survey GNSS receivers are already week number rollover compliant and handle that week number change without any issues. There was one firmware version, 2.32, that was released in the year 2007. If a receiver has a firmware 2.32 or later, they will handle this following week number rollover without any issues. There are some legacy receivers like the Trimble 4700 and 4800 receivers that are not compliant since 2016. And for those customers that still use those receivers, GPS-only receivers, they can actually still collect raw data with this receiver, and a little Windows tool, a command line utility called fix.week that we released in March 2016 can be used to convert those raw files into files that can be date corrected or week number corrected, and then they can be used in any post-processing software without any issues. What action is needed? So basically you have to figure out if the receiver has firmware 2.32 installed or later. If that's the case, no action is required. If a receiver has a firmware lower than 2.32, again, that was released in 2007, so it's also an already very old firmware, make sure your customers install firmware 2.32 or a more current version. Again, the minimum required firmware is provided free of charge to handle the week number rollover. For firmware that is more current, you might need to be on an existing protection plan to load this firmware. Should you need a firmware upgrade code, option code to install firmware 2.32, please contact Trimble support and have your serial numbers ready. Trimble support will generate an option code that can then be applied to the receiver using WinFlash, and then you can install 232. What action should you, as a distributor and customers, take? Please reach out to customers with older generation GPS receivers that might have a firmware version lower than 232, and ask them to upgrade the firmware. So currently there's 3 models listed here: the Trimble 5700, 5800, and Trimble R8, all Model 1s. Those receivers could have a firmware lower than 232. Please reach out to those customers if they're still using those receivers and make them aware of the firmware upgrade. Again, it is free of charge, and it's a recommendation to at least install this minimum required firmware 232 to be weak number rollover compliant.
Okay, thanks, Stefan. This is Ken Takel, and I will cover the real-time networks products quickly, which is also sold by our geospatial dealers. So starting with the receivers, and sometimes these are called CORS receivers, continuously operating reference stations. So this table shows that basically the good news is that all of the RTN receivers have always been GPS WNRO compliant, with the exception of the Trimble Net RS. That receiver is compliant with firmware version 1.3-2, which is a free upgrade. As Stefan mentioned, contact support if your customer doesn't already have that and have the serial number ready. But all other receivers, any firmware we ship with it is WNRO compliant. For the software that manages these real-time networks, the details are here below. Most of the customers are on Trimble Pivot platform, and they should be, we recommend them upgrading to 4.1.3 if they're not already on that version. For GPSnet, RTKnet, version 2.7x. And then we don't have very many of these. There are a few customers that are still running VRS3Net, and we believe that all versions of that will be compatible without any issues. So that covers the RTN products.
Thanks, Kent. So Gareth, would you please cover the GIS handhelds and receivers?
Sure, thanks, Stefan. Gareth Gibson here. I'm the portfolio manager for the GIS component of the geospatial business area. So in terms of the mapping and GIS portfolio, all of our receivers and handhelds released in 2005 and beyond have been tested, and we can verify that they will continue to operate normally following the week number rollover event, providing that the receiver firmware on those devices is up to date and at the recommended version number. There is quite a long list of products and handhelds, and they are fully documented in the GIS support bulletin that is referenced at the end of this presentation, and also included in the email that you will have received from Trimble relating to this event. And the firmware version numbers of all of those devices is clearly labeled. In most cases, the device will already have the required GNSS firmware version installed on those devices, because they have been compliant since the product was released. In some cases, there has been an update available over the lifetime of the product, and those version numbers are clearly identifiable in the operating system of those handhelds, or in the GNSS firmware version reported by the GNSS receivers in the GIS portfolio. Of special note, it is probably worth pointing out the products, the Geo5T handheld, the GPS Pathfinder Pro XT and Pro XH receivers, and the TDC 150 handheld have all had recent GNSS firmware versions released specifically for the week number rollover event, or in the recent past, that makes those devices compliant with the week number rollover event. And also included on that list is the Catalyst soft GNSS receiver. So in order to make the Catalyst receiver compliant, all users are recommended or are required to update the Catalyst service version installed on the Android phone or tablet that they are using the Catalyst service with, and that is a free update, as is the updates for all the other products as well. The Catalyst service update should be automatically deployed via the Google Play Store in order to function properly after the week number rollover event. And that is the summary for the GIS handhelds and receivers.
Thanks, Gareth.
So this is Boris speaking. I'm going to cover the impact on the Office software, primarily Trimble Business Center and Spectral Precision Survey Office. The way that the week number rollover is going to exhibit itself for the affected user is in the receiver data import. You will see year 1999 as the year. We have already taken steps, and in February we have patched TBC 5.0 patch version 2, so the version that you will see when you go to download Trimble Business Center today is going to be 5.00.2. We have also went one release back, and we have addressed TBC and SPSO version 4.10 with a patch number 3, so those versions are going to be displayed as 4.10.3. For all the users who are affected by this and whose maintenance expired prior to 4.10 being released in April of 2016, we'll have the opportunity to work with our support team, and we'll be provided an upgrade to TBC 4.10.3 at no cost. So if you're a TBC 5.0 user and you haven't got a patch yet, you can get the 5.00.2 patch through either within the software through Check for Updates utility, or you can go on our website. All the users who have tried and downloaded TBC in the last month would have actually, upon hitting download here, a link would get TBC 5.00.2. And also for users of the earlier version of TBC 4.10, and we also had the equivalent SPSO version of 4.10. Similarly, you can go through Check for Updates in respective TBC and SPSO software and get that 4.10.3 patch, or both, or you can get the full versions both through our TBC or geospatial download page, as well as through our Spectra geospatial page shown here in the image on the right.
Thank you, Boris. There's also several documents published and posted over the last few weeks on this topic. There have been links provided in the geospatial newsletter. So if you have access to this newsletter, please refer also to those documents for survey products for receivers like the 4800 that is no longer in compliance since 2016, with our networks, the GIS products, and TBC. There's also additional information on websites, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and a lot of more information online. If you Google week number rollover, there are several pages and reading information available. If you have trouble locating files or those documents, please contact your regional sales manager, and we'll help you to get you those documents. Communication. So we have, of course, published several iterations of our newsletter, the Geospatial newsletter. We will have this recording available from today's webinar, but we'll also have dedicated information on Trimble.com, and we have links on Trimble.com also to the support bulletins that link to the specific products. So it's not a single document that has everything listed, but we broke this down into the different businesses and different product groups to make it a little easier to digest and quicker to find. This concludes today's geospatial webinar on the GPS week number rollover. Thank you for listening in. Goodbye.